President Biden is expected to meet with Senate Democrats today. It comes as the Senate gears up to pass his nearly $2 trillion relief package. The Biden administration wants to bring deportees who have been separated from their children back to the U.S. Now, critics are raising concerns. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is not the only one facing questions over nursing home scandals. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer is coming under scrutiny. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's kick off with a stimulus deal. President Biden is set to join Senate Democrats virtually during lunch Tuesday to discuss the relief bill. The Senate will start debating Biden's $1.9 trillion bill this week after it passed the House on Saturday. Democrats in the Senate aim to pass the bill through budget reconciliation. That means they could pass it without Republican support. One thing that won't be in the Senate's version is the $15 minimum wage hike. Democrats gave up on it over the weekend after the Senate Rules Advisor found the wage hike can't be included under the budget reconciliation process. The White House said Monday it's not planning to overrule the decision. But not all the senators are giving up. Bernie Sanders said Democrats should defy the parliamentarians' ruling. He said, "My personal view is that the idea that we have a Senate staffer, a high-ranking staffer, deciding whether 30 million Americans get a pay raise or not is nonsensical. We have got to make that decision, not a staffer who's unelected." As for the overall bill, Republicans say it's too expensive. Representative Mike Kelly is on the Ways and Means Committee. He told the Epoch Times at CPAC that most of the money has nothing to do with the virus, saying only 9% goes to fighting the pandemic. He says he has no problem with money that's targeted towards helping American people, but this is not targeted. He says our funded and unfunded liabilities is $130 trillion right now. And his advice for disillusioned Americans: get more involved at the local level and keep on voting. Now let's turn to the border. Families that were separated because the parents were deported from the U.S. may be able to reunite. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says deported parents will be able to come back to the U.S. or the children taken to their home countries where their parents are. The task force in charge of this will give the reunited migrant families benefits using taxpayer dollars. Those include transportation, healthcare, legal services, help with their careers, and education. The families will not have to pay for these. Speaking to migrants more broadly, Mayorkas sent them a message telling them to wait before coming to the U.S. while they rebuild the immigration system. Mayorkas claimed there is no crisis at the border, but instead called it a challenge they are managing. And he said their goal is to rebuild an immigration system quickly. He says that's to help migrants get to the U.S. safely and give them humanitarian relief from their home countries. The U.S. is seeing a rise in illegal border crossings in recent weeks. This comes as the new administration rolls back some of former President Donald Trump's signature policies, such as requiring asylum seekers to wait outside the country. Now, a Democrat representative in Congress calls President Biden's immigration policies catastrophic. He predicts it will attract tens of thousands of Central American migrants to the border. Representative Vicente Gonzalez blasted Biden's immigration policy on CNN. He says it allows migrants coming across the border illegally to stay in the U.S., but lawful asylum seekers have to wait. He predicts this will cause a surge to the border. He says the message this is sending out will bring tens of thousands showing up to the border, and he says it will be, quote, catastrophic for our party, for our country. Gonzalez goes on to say that his district has been hit hard by the pandemic. He says a chaotic situation at the border carries risks inside the country. He says he's lost over 3,000 citizens to the virus in his district, adding he still has thousands of police officers and frontline workers who haven't been vaccinated. Gonzalez says we need a compassionate and holistic approach to immigration. He believes Biden's policy forces migrants to take risks that puts them at the mercy of smugglers and drug cartels. He says asylum seekers should apply for asylum in their own country. With Biden undoing the Trump administration's immigration policies, experts predict a crisis could envelop the southern border. Now, let's turn to some updates. A third woman is accusing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. Anna Ruch told the New York Times the unwanted advances came at a wedding in 2019. The news outlet published a photograph of the incident showing both of the governor's hands on her neck and face. Ruch's account follows allegations from two of Cuomo's former aides in recent days. Cuomo has denied the allegations. He also issued a statement on Sunday as an apology, saying at work he is sometimes being playful and that he, quote, never intended to make anyone feel uncomfortable. The statement did little to appease. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio told reporters on Monday that's not an apology. Now there are growing calls for Cuomo to resign. Several New York lawmakers saying Cuomo must resign. There are also growing calls for an independent investigation. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying on Monday the allegations against Cuomo are credible and backed an independent probe. And former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton is also weighing in on the matter. She said in a statement, these stories are difficult to read, and the allegations brought forth raise serious questions that the women who have come forward and all New Yorkers deserve answers to. Adding, I am glad to see that there will be a full, independent, and thorough investigation. Clinton lives in New York and has long been a supporter of Cuomo, a fellow Democrat who has governed the state since 2011. New York Attorney General Letitia James on Monday said her office is moving forward with an investigation into the sexual harassment claims. James plans on appointing a special deputy to conduct the investigation. She says the findings will be disclosed in a public report. Cuomo is already under intense scrutiny over how he handled the pandemic. Reports say his office undercounted or covered up the number of deaths in nursing homes last year. An investigation carried out by New York Attorney General Letitia James found that the state may have underreported death by as much as 50%. Republicans and a number of Democrats in the state have called on Cuomo to resign over the nursing home deaths, and some Republicans in New York have suggested impeachment, while Democrats have proposed stripping Cuomo of his executive power. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said on Sunday that there now needed to be two independent investigations, one into Cuomo's conduct and another into the nursing home deaths. He said in a statement, questions of this magnitude cannot hang over the heads of New Yorkers as we fight off a pandemic and economic crisis. And now there's controversy over Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo. The CNN host says Monday he's aware of the sexual harassment claims against his brother, but that he cannot cover them. Some are pointing out Chris has brought his brother onto his show several times in the past, so now shouldn't be any different. Chris Cuomo had his brother on his show multiple times in the spring of 2020. While it was to cover the pandemic, most of the segments featured the two joking, or positive portrayals of the governor and few substantive questions about the governor's handling of the pandemic. CNN has not responded to requests for comment. A spokesperson told news outlets that there was a ban on Chris Cuomo hosting his brother, adding while the ban was lifted last year, it is now back in place. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is not the only one facing questions over nursing home scandals. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer is coming under scrutiny. 8 Republican lawmakers in Michigan calling for a full investigation into Governor Gretchen Whitmer. In separate letters sent to Michigan Attorney General, they're asking for the probe into Whitmer's handling of long-term care patients during the pandemic, arguing that her regional hub policy resulted in deaths that could have been avoided. Whitmer issued an executive order in April of 2020 to designate 21 nursing homes as regional hubs. That was to provide care for both seniors recovering from the virus and those who were healthy. According to the order, the hubs were chosen based on their capability to house patients who had tested both positive and negative for the virus in properly separated units or buildings. Lawmakers say in the letter, Governor Whitmer's regional hub policy placed patients with and without COVID-19 in the same facilities and may have exacerbated the death toll in those facilities. They highlighted the discrepancies in how virus infections and deaths were reported by the nursing homes. If a patient tested positive after transferring to a hospital, some nursing homes added that number while others didn't. The lawmakers say they suspect something similar happened when it came to reporting deaths after the transfer. The lawmakers have 4 main points of investigation. the processes and policies that may have contributed to the spread of the virus among Michigan's nursing home patients, the accuracy of the data reported by the governor's office, how well the state complied with federal health guidelines, and how well the state complied with the Freedom of Information Act. But Whitmer and Cuomo aren't the only governors under scrutiny. The Justice Department requested last August for governors of states that issued COVID-19 orders that may have resulted in deaths of elderly nursing home residents to turn over their data. Those states are Michigan, New York, as well as New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Whitmer and Cuomo pushed back, calling those inquiries partisan deflection aimed at Democrat-run states. Some have compared those states to Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis and his handling of the pandemic. His more relaxed approach to lockdowns has won praise from conservatives. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.